Okay, I was wrong. It wasn't Ririsa, who is the secretly childhood friend who has been cosplaying as a character in order to get the attention of Masamune. That was Mikari. Apparently, Mikari is the one that met him 5 years ago and has basically dedicated her entire life in order to catch his attention by dressing up as a character. Now, granted, she hasn't been dressing up as a character, but she did technically do herself up to look like Ririsa. She did not do cosplay, at least, but she has at least prettied herself up and changed her hairstyle just to get his attention. And yes, become a supermodel just to get his attention. And hasn't known him for a long time, but she's still obsessed with him enough that she's going to transfer schools after becoming a supermodel because she wants to get his attention. I always love these characters who seem like they dedicate their entire existence just for the main character, who is a trope main character who's not going to respond to anything because whoa, put this on. It's like I made a tweet, was literally like, everybody else, yes please. And the protagonist character in the situation, oh my gosh, I accidentally stepped on Liliasul in the manga. It's good stuff. Anyways, decent episode, episode 2. I will admit, yes, as like with the first episode, quite a bit of covering up of the lewds. I guess we have the Russian waifu show this season, so I guess we don't need this one to look too spicy, but I will admit, not as much cut as the first episode. And I'm pretty much coming to the conclusion now at this point that episode 1 had so much cut out of it just so they can get to that punchline in that first episode. Whereas nothing else seems to be being cut, at least with the second episode. So that's a good thing. It's a promising sign they're not going to keep cutting stuff. Which, let's be honest, most of the stuff that was cut from the first episode was just a bunch of lewd stuff. And yes, a lot of the context from episode 1 that was cut did technically get into episode 2. One main thing being was the trope fall over and, take pictures of my butt. That technically is covered with the second episode, getting the idea that she falls on top of him and says, oh, this is one of those shonen ecchi moments. Take a picture. But yes, after my video on the first episode, I got a lot of people chiming in, DMs, at me on Twitter and everything, explaining that apparently with the manga at least, over time, it got less lewd and got more focused on the slice of life element. So this could just be them trying to soften things early on just to kind of get it more in line with what's going to be later on in the series. I don't know. That stuff is still there later on in the manga, so I don't know if I completely agree with that, but it is something to keep in mind. But yes, back to episode 2. I will admit that this episode is pretty much everything I hate about rom-coms and harem shows all kind of mixed into one. We got the childhood friend who's obviously going to lose. I'm sorry, girl. Mikari, you should never have shown back up because you're not the cover girl. You're not the cover girl. You have already lost. He has only known Ririsa for literally a day, and he's already under her. Like, she's already got him. If he's already thinking of her, and he's going, oh, it's because she cosplays as Lilio. No, she's already got him. You spending your entire life existent like most childhood friends do, trying to catch his attention, you don't got him. I'm sorry. Random cover girl shows up and immediately he's all over her. But yes, it's introducing the childhood friend. It's introducing the obvious heartbreak. It's introducing pretty much an entire wasted life of a girl, which does always bug me with childhood friend characters. But additionally, the aspect of like the convenience of all this stuff and the idea that she becomes a supermodel. And so he obviously knows a supermodel and everything. But hopefully this will technically introduce an interesting concept because yes, in this episode, we did introduce that Lisha wants to cosplay with Mikari, and yes, that there's another character in the franchise who is the best friend of Lilio, so she can cosplay her too. This is the one thing I am wondering with the toning down of the content of the manga to the anime adaptation is yes, this other character, the friend of Lilio, her outfit is very spicy. And if they're not even willing to show it in the brief snapshot that we got, I don't know how they're going to handle it when she's actually cosplaying as her because it's extremely skimpy. My assumption is that because they've technically shown Ririsa showing her underwear, I'm not too concerned they're going to be not wanting to show much, just not probably a lot of close-ups. But yeah, Mikari has showed up. She's transferred to his school. She's already noting the fact that she hates manga, telling everybody that she actually hates manga. And yes, as we find out from some brief backstory, that yes, Masamune, who at that time, and they're acknowledging it, and even Mikari's acknowledging it, which I kind of like, is yes, they're acknowledging the fact that this is already the point when she met him that he hates and doesn't trust 3D women. And the idea that the only person that has never betrayed him is Lidio. And so he is already in his like chuny mode, acting like he's Ashford or whatever the hell that guy's name is, and he's this hero of justice. And yes, at some point she was being bullied because she had just this frizzy hair going on, and he protected her. And so, trying to get his attention, she dressed up as a character that was in the manga that he keeps talking about, and they kind of became friends, sort of question mark, through just running around as that. But additionally, yes, they kind of note the fact that, yes, after she changed herself, everybody wants her. Suddenly, everybody's giving her attention, but he's the only one that has never changed. He's the only one that has always been true, and additionally, it seems like she doesn't want to betray him, so she's just keeping up this act. I'm going to keep pushing at him and keep pushing at him and never go for my other options because I don't want to betray him. And so it's kind of like, this girl needs to see a psychiatrist. At this point, it's like, I again, knowing how childhood friends work, knowing that Ririsa is the cover girl, knowing the direction the series is going to go, no matter what, this girl needs to see a psychiatrist. Otherwise, she's probably going to be ruined because, again, she has spent at least the last 5 years of her life doing up herself, becoming a supermodel, all for his sake, and she's already admitted that she doesn't want to choose other options because she doesn't want to betray him when he'll never acknowledge her. And it's like, this stuff really... It's one of those things where don't think about it too much, Andrew. It's a stupid harem, ecchi comedy slice of life show. But it's a slice of life, and typically with slice of life, they do technically get a little bit more serious than you do from a typical rom-com. So trying to think into the actual psychology of the character, this is extremely toxic and a very unfortunate situation here. This girl basically groomed herself. Mikari basically groomed herself into loving Masamune to the point where it's kind of unsettling. But anyways, that's the backstory. She's been dedicating herself. Even if they've presented her with the idea of actually getting with somebody that's like a famous star or something like that, she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I want him. So much that, yes, she transfers schools over to his school, spots him there, tries to go out. Well, at some point she gets splashed with water, and then she goes to the club, goes in there, and basically just throws herself on him. Can we say but that she's all but thrown herself on him, even pulling him down onto her, saying that this is yours. Here, you want it? Come look. Hey, let's lay down together. Come join me. And the entire time, like a good protagonist, he keeps saying, no. What are you talking about? No. It is technically noted here. I mean, she's even acknowledging it too. He's flustered. And if he wasn't interested in 3D girls, he wouldn't be flustered. He does at least say that she's always cute, but at the same time, he also said, everybody said that you were always cute. But he at least acknowledges that he was paying attention to her by the fact that she's fidgeting with her hair, and he goes, you used to always do that. You're always the same. So it is him technically acknowledging that he did acknowledge her, which let's admit, for somebody like him, who's a dumb, I only like, 2D girls type of person, does at least show something. But yes, I do get a kick out of the fact that he's like, change your clothes, and it's like, it's not like I have anything else to wear. I didn't come in here with 3 sets of clothes. My clothes are wet. I'm going to have to stay here for a while. I'm not sure why the clothes dried that fast, but we're not going to think about that too much. But yes, apparently she wore her combat underwear. She brought her combat underwear there. She's like, oh, this is the stuff that I wanted to show you. Dang girl was coming there with the underwear for combat. But yes, we get the trope. He trips and falls on top of her. She tries to pull him in. She thinks that he's actually going to go for it, which starts to fluster her before he covers her up, like a good boy. But of course, when she asks if he has somebody that he likes, he immediately thinks of Lisha. And he blows it off as if it was like, oh, I thought of her because she cosplays as Lilio. No, that's not how that worked, boy. I'm sorry. But yeah, she eventually spots Lisha in there with Masamune. She comes in there, gets upset, and then that's when Lisha asks if they can cosplay together. And that pretty much wraps up the episode. Like I said, that's going to be interesting to have them seemingly a pair. My assumption was going to go this direction when I seen a bunch of characters on the cover that, yes, we're going to probably have that entire manga club turn into a bunch of hot girls that are all cosplaying for him. And the entire time he goes, oh no, undressed girls. On Lidia's side, I thought it was a little bit more wholesome. Lidia's side of this episode was a lot more wholesome because opening up the episode, they cut it from the manga, but technically when he comes in the door, she's actually trying to get the camera from up above, and he supports the desk. And yes, of course, he gets a really pleasant shot the entire time she's trying to get the camera. But yeah, when she comes down with the camera, I like this because it was a cute little moment where they're looking through the pictures. He's getting nostalgic of his old buddies. And I like how Lirisha picks up on that, and she immediately tries to cheer him up, like, "Oh yeah, let's do something. We can do anything. Hey, you want to play games? Do you want to watch anime?" She's trying to cheer him up. I thought it was super sweet. But no, his choice is to do photography, and she doesn't have her cosplay, so they decide to wear just what she's wearing. And so they do all these little pictures. She doesn't like seeing herself, which that is one of those kind of things where I'm wondering how deep this show is going to get. It's like every now and then something happens. I mean, it's just like the whole thing with Mikari. How deep are they going to get into the idea that this girl has literally dedicated her entire life for him and she doesn't want to betray him, which means that she's probably never going to find love. It's the same thing here. It seems like Lirisha is extremely self-conscious of her own self. She never believes that she'll be as pretty as Lilio. And so when she sees herself being taken a picture of, she's literally like, "Oh, I don't like this. It's horrible. I'll never be like Lilio." So it's almost like this, she has a hatred for herself, which is kind of sad. But no, she decides to do herself up, roll her skirt up and everything, and then get into a provocative pose before eventually looking at the photos and realizing, oh, that's right, I'm not actually wearing a cosplay underwear. I still got a kick out of that for the first episode. She literally just lifts up her skirt like, "Oh, don't worry, it's a cosplay underwear, so it's not the real thing. It's still underwear." There's like this weird like block that Lirisha has for real underwear and cosplay underwear. Let's face it, men don't care. It's the same thing for men. Whether it's cosplay or not, it's still underwear. But yeah, like I said, that technically did cover one of the things that was skipped from the previous episode. In the previous episode, they talked about there's this trope where the character falls over and the main character gets this straight butt shot because the skirt's up. And so she actually posed just like that for him to take a picture. So we're technically getting that joke here, is the idea that she's like, oh, when she falls on him, oh, this is the perfect ecchi moment from a shonen manga. She's not even bothered by the fact that she literally has her underwear right in his face. She's like, oh yeah, take the picture because it's cosplay underwear. But still, this whole segment was cute because it is playing in the nostalgia of his previous club mates and, you know, her trying to help him with that and him getting that same feeling with Lirisha. Like, despite the fact that my senpais have gone, I have Lirisha here now and we're having fun. It's like old times. It was a cute little moment. But yeah, that's basically it. That's interesting episode. I'll be interested to see where it goes from here. I'm very curious how they're going to handle Mikari's outfit because, again, that was a bit spicy in the manga. And I'm not sure if they're going to downplay it a little bit. Because, I mean, they technically have done that with one of Lilio's outfits. It's much more covering. It's not as much oob. So they'll probably adjust it a little bit. We'll see. I'm sure everybody's going to be upset about it. Like I said, at this point, I'm kind of mixed. I'm kind of leaning to the idea that they're obviously censoring it for broadcast. That's an obvious thing there. But the idea of them actually changing it so it fits more to the more subtle and toned down versions of later on the manga, I sort of see it, but it's still there technically. So I don't know. It's just not, I guess, not as in your face. So we'll see where it goes from here. But that's my thoughts on episode 2 of 2.5 Dimensional Seduction. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what's on the episode. Additionally, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe before you leave so you can get my content. I'll be doing first impressions of all the shows of the season, so definitely stick around. If you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips, links, and thanks for membership button below. Greatly appreciate what it does, and y'all take care.